Guys, we are at SommCon 2025 in San Diego. I am sitting with Regina Sanz. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Raf.
Thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
We had a great conversation last time we were together. I'm really excited to kind of follow up with you here. Last time we spoke, you were the general manager at Costa Brown Winery. I think as of most recently, you were the senior director of global marketing and strategy for Joseph Phelps Vineyards. You know, I don't know if I fully recognized this last time, but you're kind of a big deal here. You initiated Pinot Talks, blind tasting series. You partnered up with Jose Andres and World Central Kitchen. Residents, or at least repeat sommelier on the Kelly Clarkson show. I mean, come on, what's going on here?
Thank you.
Good for you. I'm excited. I'm really excited to have this conversation. I want to jump into the seminar that you're giving. I think you already had it, right?
Yep, this morning.
So you're speaking on shifting tastes, how multiple generations are reshaping the beverage landscape. Can you give us a little summary maybe, or the most important points of how that went down? Definitely on your side. And then also curious if there was any real hot things that stood out that other of the presenters said that stood out for you.
Absolutely. Well, first off, I think the SommCon community this year, especially, shout out to Michelle and the entire team that curated this. Absolutely. It was a really good sort of alley-oop, like lob layup, I should say. Mm-hmm. The keynote speech yesterday was very much about the demographics and the data that we are seeing that is being recorded around generational differences and preference in wine purchasing, alcohol space, restaurant. So it was a really good foundation, I think, for the overall group of people to hear. Mm-hmm. Our focus this morning was, okay, let's get into it a little bit more. Let's define the generations, mm-hmm. Boomer, X, Millennial, Gen Z. And through that lens of what these preferences may look like, what are the communication tools that we need to get to these various generations? How are they different? For me, as somebody who's been on the supplier side for a long time, and prior to that in restaurant, my philosophy is very much, you have to tell the story differently to different people. For example, I might take my mom to a different restaurant than I would take my niece and nephew who are much younger than I am, or to a different kind of experience that I might want to have on date night versus fine dining. That doesn't mean that the message we should be sending, and I'm saying this by restaurant brand or as a winery brand, the message of what your brand is still has to stay the same. Mm-hmm. Was I think really the big through line in our conversation this morning in talking about generational differences is you have to remain authentic to who you are and what you are as a brand. Mm-hmm. The tactic in which you use and how you communicate that information is what differs. Mm-hmm. For me, that was a really important one because it's easy to say, okay, we'll use various brands I've worked for in the past. Doesn't really make sense to market it on TikTok. That's just not the end user. However, it might make sense to be in a Facebook marketplace kind mm-hmm. of thing. It might make sense to have a different platform. So it's meeting the customer, meeting the end user where they're at.
Was there any interesting data that came out of that seminar? Because I was doing some research in the past couple of nights just to have some fresh data on hand, and it seems like there's a lot of different information that's out there. Are you seeing any obvious data for what those consumption levels look like for some of the different generations?
I think the reality is a lot of the data that we're seeing now, and this was even confirmed in the Data Essence presentation yesterday, was that it's confirming what we have intrinsically known, speaking from a marketing perspective. Listen, is anyone surprised that people that are 21, 22, and 23 are not drinking expensive bottles of wine? No, I wasn't drinking expensive bottles of wine when I was in my early 20s working in restaurants. But now we have the data to support and show that. Mm-hmm. I think then that's not to suggest that there isn't a difference. There is. Generation Z is definitely consuming more alcohol, consuming less alcohol than I sit in Generation X. My memories of binge drinking, for better or for worse, in my early 20s, it's a different landscape. That said, the data does show that it's not about not consuming alcohol. It's just, or wine in particular. It means that Gen Z is simply consuming less frequently. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? It means that the kinds of things that they're hoping to consume are more specific. They're giving more thought to it. So instead of having 5 shots, right? they're having 2 really high-end cocktails or 1 really nice bottle of wine versus, a few bottles of wine. I think that's a really important piece for us. There's a lot of doomsday going on, I think, out in the industry. I'll speak specifically for wine because that's where my area of expertise is. That, nobody's drinking, the sky is falling, it's all ending.
Yeah.
Wine's a 1,000-year-old beverage.
Yep.
It's going to weather this storm. And really, I think our biggest challenge, if I'm picking on the wine industry, especially on the supplier side, we have a tendency to navel gaze. We have a tendency to look at what we've always done and what our competitors or friends and neighbors are doing versus looking outside of our industry and taking learnings from other industries. Yeah. And I think if we can start to see a new route to market, if we can start to see a new opportunity and how to connect with our customers instead of just doing the same old thing, that's really where there's opportunity. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Warren Buffett, buy when there's blood in the streets, take advantage of the fact that it's tough right now.
I want to take advantage that you're here and with the amount of experience that you have, I want to go deep because I feel like I don't want to it's easy. It's not that you were doing this at all, but I want to go deeper than the philosophical level on things. So I want to let's give you a specific case example, an imaginary situation. Let's say that let's look at it from the lens of your marketing experience, but let's say that we have a small to medium-sized family-owned winery, right? Husband and wife. I was just in Burgundy with our team, and there's so many of it, which is giving me a whole new level of appreciation for the producers that we import. But literally, so many of the people that we met was it's a husband and wife, or it's a brother and sister.
Yep.
Who it's literally them, and then they hire help on the side when they need it. So I love that size of the winery. I think there's a lot of wineries out there. Let's say a traditional winery, so not some super avant-garde natty wine, or some super old school Bordeaux Chateau. Right, we're not there. It's kind of a traditional winery, small to medium size, under 30,000 cases a year. They are looking to connect with their audience, and they're not. And so, say for example, because we see this scenario a lot, they have entry level wines that might be retail at $20. They might have their mid tier that's 35 to 40 to 50 on retail. Then they might have one real nice high end wine that's maybe 80 to 100, for example. So they have different tiers, which could be for different demographics at different price points. And it's funny because the way that you were describing it earlier got me excited because I listened to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. I love his stuff, and it is what you were saying. You will have a different message if you're in a room with your parents than if you're out drinking at the bar with your buddies, or that if you're speaking to your nephew or whatever. There's just different tones that are involved. For this case study that we're mentioning, what would be some advice that you would give them on how to deliver their message to a subset of these different demographics?
And I'm going to make an assumption in this hypothetical because this is what I see by and large. We are all guilty of this, specifically in wine. We tend to cast the net way too wide. We tend to say, this wine's for everyone.
Right.
And that's just not true, especially in the United States when only about 20 to 24% even consumes alcohol. Fact check me. I have no idea if that's still true. But to say that we want our wine everywhere, we want to be able to market to everyone is the Achilles heel. It's like saying you're the jack of all trades, but you're really the master of none. My advice would be in this scenario would be really focus on what that end user is. I think Italian wine in general has done a great job of this. And some of that is that restaurants in particular will use this example, identify themselves as an Italian restaurant.
Right.
So now immediately, if you're an Italian wine producer and you're hoping to make inroads into a market, you're going to probably have some pretty good success rate if you are marketing in it from a trade perspective to Italian restaurants. And I think if we say, okay, brand in Burgundy, incredible wine, very good quality product, different price points. Remember that just because generational differences, look, there's an overarching, sure, if you're in your early 20s, you probably don't have the same disposable income as you would maybe later. But listen, there are Bitcoin billionaires that are Gen Z. So it's less about alienation. It's more about opportunity for where they're at. The other thing I would say is so many times I've sat in boardrooms and the people asking, how do we engage with this particular group, generation, demographic, potential customer subset? None of the people in that room exist in that subset. So maybe hire some people of color, hire some young folks. Sort of caveat here, it doesn't mean that they're going to suddenly turn around and become the CEO of that company, but listen to what they have to say, bring their knowledge into the conversation, listen, and get a little more focused in message.
I love that. I'm also going to go selfish with you here.
Yeah, of course. Anything for your wrap.
I mean, you have so much experience. What advice do you have for me on how I can make this channel more available to more and more people? I mean, I think you kind of know the mission of what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to speak with the best of the best that exists in the hospitality industry so we can extract their best lessons and practices on a local, national, and hopefully eventually global scale so we can all be better at what we do in this industry.
Well, I'd say two things. One, keep doing what you're doing. I think some of the brilliance is that your subject matter is honed enough that you already have a captive, interested audience because it's not too broad, right? That said, what we sort of talked about, find different, when I say channels, I don't necessarily mean like put it on YouTube, but are there other ways what you're doing? You're here at SommCon, you're bringing this into an experiential place. That's what I think a lot of the future of conversation around alcohol will be. It will become more experiential. It will, in many ways, kind of come back around again of sit down, taste some wine, bring it around the dinner table.
Right.
You're already doing a lot of really great stuff, honestly. I think
Thank
it's
you.
more,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, sincerely. We're going to taste some wine. And I don't know many other podcasts where you actually get to have this kind of business dialogue and then also bring it back to the product. I think that's critically important, especially as we're seeing, this big topic is, top of the funnel, where the new customer's coming from. I was having a great conversation with Maurice earlier, and he was making reference to what he sees his daughter, who's Gen Z, how she receives information. She will watch 10 different opinions on a particular topic, call it, how to build a mousetrap. I'm just making this up. And ultimately make her own decision through that. I think the more voices, the more opinions, the more ways in which we are bringing information to the table. We don't all have to agree. Somebody might come on after me and completely disagree. But I think we need to give credit that our next generation of consumers, they're smart and they want to know. The biggest thing that they'll sniff out and across all generations is inauthentic. If you're not being true to yourself or true to your brand, or in the brand case, exemplifying those attributes, people won't believe you. They'll just swipe to the next one.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's such a good piece of advice. I think that we always do. I think that that people who are kind of aspiring to be better, they do that in a certain way, right?
Yeah,
you pick
hard.
the best attributes from certain people that you like and that you gravitate towards, and like, oh, I like how he does that. And I'm going to try to not do that, and I like how they do that. That's the whole point of this. That's why I would never do a solo podcast and just me blabbing on. Nobody wants that. I want to get different people's, everybody that I can get a completely different perspective or whatever it is that we can get every time. So awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you're kind of creating more open dialogue. There is so much, is my sort of on my soapbox for a second. There's so much gatekeeping in the alcohol beverage space. And I think things like this, where there's true dialogue that isn't necessarily from brand trying to drive a particular message, that's important. It has a time and place, but really more of a trade space to say, here's the challenges we're facing. Let's have a conversation about it. History time and time again shows us if we come together as industry community, we move the needle. I mean, there's countless case studies of this from alcohol, from many other industries as well. You're going to do better if you're sharing the best practice.
I love that. Great way to end that part. We have been tasting some wines. Do you want to taste some wine?
Yes, please.
We're going to do it blind. And to keep it fair, I'm going to let you choose. So please choose a number between 1 and 12. Actually, I think we've already gone through 1, 8, and 9. So anything minus 1, 8, and 9?
4.
Perfect. Cassandra, would you please bring us wine number 4? As soon as you touch the glass, your time is started. I didn't tell you this, but you actually, we have white wine.
Yay, white wine. I'm going to do better now.
We're going to have 90 seconds for you. The point is so that we can keep you moving. And just, of course, just tell us the most impactful things that stand out to you in the wine. And then we'll go from there. Best of luck to you. Thank you so much. Time starts when you touch the glass. Good luck.
Okay, ready, set, go.
Go.
Ooh, I already like this. I think aromatics for me, if I don't have to really get my entire face into the glass to get the aromatics, I'm already biasedly going to like it. It's very expressive. And I think we need to remember that you taste with your nose and your eyes just as much as your palate. that beautiful acid, bright, crunchy. My mouth is watering. It's warm here in San Diego. This is like something I definitely want to drink. It is feeling, from an acidity standpoint, beautiful acid. There's some really nice fruit in there. I'm somewhere between, I'm feeling like it's New World, but it has Old World qualities to it. I think Old World, New World is kind of a hard thing to say nowadays because climate is changing so much. So I'm going to lean on my first impression and I'm going to say it's a New World Chenin Blanc, maybe. I'm not getting a woolly note, which I often get with Chenin Blanc. But there is like some kind of lychee in there. So it could be like a really cool climate Viognier.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what
like
this wine is.
Wildly off.
I can't even imagine.
It's probably like
I'm a horrible
Chardonnay.
wine taster. I'm so glad I'm not doing this because I put the wines together and I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
What do we have, Cassandra?
Wine number 4, Puy Fumé, way off.
Oh my gosh, I was way off too.
So it's Sauvignon Blanc.
Whoa.
It's from the Old World. Way off, but I will say I'm also not surprised because of exactly we're seeing. It has got to be so hard to pass the MS exam now because things that, when I was going through my certified exam markers 15 years ago, the climate has changed so much that this feels 23 vintage, warm climate.
Did you say, what were your fruit characteristics?
It has sort of a bright acidity, but I wasn't leaning towards Sauvignon Blanc because there's a lot more fruit on the palate. Yeah. There's a lot more kind of lychee characteristic.
Yes, I agree with 100%.
I was sort of feeling Chenin because it has kind of a fuller mouthfeel, but it doesn't have that kind of woolly note, which is why I was kind of leaning more toward
like a little phenolics that you sometimes would get into. It's super bright. It's like this, like almost like bubble gummy. It's a very bright, fruity type of, and there's like very minimal herbal characteristics on that
which
too,
would have been my marker for Loire
for you at all. So I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. I'm glad to fail epically.
That's a new vintage, and I'm making a personal note that it is a fruitier vintage.
It is definitely a fruitier vintage
compared to some of the other ones that have a little bit. Because honestly, even going back to it, I really don't get that much herbal. If anything, it's like fresh herbs that are crushed, but nothing. Like, there's no pyrazine.
Yeah,
I'm not getting any pyrazine.
A relatively warmer vintage in the Loire in 23, and that's okay. I think for me the biggest takeaway is this wine's great. It doesn't really matter where it's from,
it's
and
super
if you like it, drink it.
Yeah.
It's crushable and delicious. I'm curious the price point because I bet it's well priced.
It is very well priced. I'll tell you later.
Okay, yeah. Tell me later.
It's like retail about like $25 probably.
Oh man, this is a great wine. It's really good.
Regina, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I look forward to the next one.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rob.